did properly add these agenda action items to the agenda last week, and you removed them.
What agenda items are you seeking to add?
Well, let me finish on this. I think it's extremely, we already addressed these issues back when you were the attorney about council, handcuffing the council, the city staff, and our city by not allowing us to add agenda items except through the committee of the whole. We went through that, we voted against that we have the right, legal right to do that, and that should stay in place, and nothing has changed. This council has not changed or voted to change any rules to that aspect. So the two items that I had on the agenda, so that needs to be added on, so I will add that back for a vote from the city council.
What are you adding on?
The additional items
You want it back on the agenda.
back on the agenda.
I hear that. What else did you want to add?
Action item number 1 was council to appoint the TPO representative. Item 2, action item, city attorney to serve as a parliamentarian for executive committee and city council meetings.
Thank you for letting me know what you wanted to add, Councilman.
And that can be under other business, and they are action items.
Well, I appreciate what you're attempting to do, but you're not the chair of this meeting. I cleared this with the city attorney before we got here this evening. So if the city attorney had an objection to what I intended to do, I think he would have told me. The concern that was shared with me, may I finish?
Yes.
Thank you. The concern that was shared with me is that that we should be aware and mindful of giving notice on action items. It has definitely been the case in the past that you yourself, sir, have sought to add items for action without notice to the public. And I would like to avoid that ever happening in the future. There is absolutely every ability for this council to take action on an item that requires action, but on the city council meeting, it is not appropriate to bring up a new item that has not been approved at the executive committee level unless there is a special circumstance warranting it. Now, you have said
These are
that the
special
TPO,
circumstances.
okay, so the special circumstances would be what?
Well, the TPO, you don't have a legal right to stop us from adding things to this agenda.
That's your position, but what's the
That is-
special
that's the
circumstance?
truth. City attorney, what's your position on that? Legal. Do we have a legal right to add additional items to the city council agenda?
That have not previously been noticed to the public?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I wish you had
I
shared
want
that with
those
me
added,
earlier this
please.
afternoon, Alex.
Mayor, may I chime in on this?
Well,
Because you actually added something to the last council meeting when you added the rename of the Milton Community Center, and I pointed out that wasn't an emergency. And previous to that, Mr. Bruton had asked us to add something for the event area at the Martin Luther King Day Parade. It needed immediate approval, and we approved it, and that was added. So we do add things.
Well, I appreciate that y'all are saying that even if there hasn't been notice to the public before this very moment, you want to add an item.
You've done it yourself.
No, ma'am.
Yes,
No,
ma'am. At the last city council
May I
meeting, you
finish?
did.
May I make a response
Sure.
to you? Because you're actually comparing apples to oranges.
No, I am not. You brought it up, and that was not an emergency, and that had not been previously discussed.
Let me just share with the public to try to respond to these concerns, and hopefully folks will understand where I'm coming from. As far as whether there was notice to the public on the renaming of the center, there was. I did provide notice to the press, and I provided notice to you and to all city employees days before May 14th. So it's different from you as a council person saying, I want to add an action item tonight that has not been on this agenda that was previously published, which is what I thought our city attorney was suggesting was something that should be looked at. But I hear him tonight saying that it's perfectly fine for you to add an item to an agenda tonight for action, even though it wasn't noticed to the public.
Yes.
Is that right, Mr. Andrade?
Mayor, this is how the city council is operated. It's not best practices, and I would recommend actually a review of best practices. But this,
Yes, sir, I would too.
But our discussion was not about that. The city council has the right to vote on the agenda and add items to the agenda the day of.
Well, I would have appreciated you responding to that to me earlier this afternoon, so we could have avoided this now. That would have been really helpful, so.
Mayor,
Yes, sir, Mr. Snow.
for you to try to handcuff this council, the staff, and the city, sometimes things are needed to be acted on. You're continued, when you're the city attorney, to stall and delay actions of promoting the city in a better way have continued, unfortunately. And it's very sad.
Mr. Snow, it is not.
Can I finish, Mayor?
No,
Can I finish, Mayor?
No, I'm not going to
You can
recognize
interrupt
you.
me, but I can, you know, it's amazing how that works, so.
I'm just going to call you out of order. You want to make a personal attack on me when I was city attorney?
No,
That's
I'm just
not in
stating
order.
facts.
That's not in
Yeah,
order.
your actions prove otherwise.
We will go ahead then.
You didn't have a problem.
We will move on
before.
with this.
Yes.
You
I have an item to add to the agenda.
You haven't recognized yet, Councilman Rice, so.
So my items are added as of now, correct?
I didn't say they were.
I'm
You never
asking a question.
explained the special circumstances, why they have to
They
be
don't
added
have to be
tonight.
special, I'm adding them, and they are
So-
special. If I'm adding them, they're special.
What you're saying is council, what you're saying is council has the right to appoint the TPO representative when that's entirely against your position you made in 2016, and entirely against the motion that you made, which was seconded and
Whenever
passed.
you're undermining this council's resolution, yes.
I am not
And
undermining this
you've had 2 weeks,
resolution.
you stated in public that you have resigned from the TPO, you have,
I did not
can I
state
finish?
that.
Can we
I'm
please
sorry.
stop?